Well, hey, everybody. We have a very, very special interview today. Susan and I are here with Gary and Chris Willis of Retail Clarity. And tomorrow, you're going to be able to start applying for the payroll protection program. And Chris and Gary have, or actually it's Gary, I know, actually put together this amazing tool. I know, Chris.
The spreadsheet wizard, Gary.
Chris has many, many, many wonderful qualities, but I don't think building spreadsheets is on that. But so they're going to do that tool, and I know that you're going to find it very, very helpful. Chris and Gary are WhizBang certified retail coaches. We know them well. We have nothing but great things to say about them as people, as about them as retail coaches. And, you know, it's just, we're just really, really happy to have you guys. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. We're excited.
Good. So before we jump into the actual tool, tell us a little bit about Retail Clarity, what you do, how people can find you. You know, give us the short pitch.
Coaching. Oh, okay. Retail Clarity Coaching, because we are a data analytics company. That is Gary's side, the smart spreadsheet kind of guy. And then I am more of the staff development, sales training kind of gal. So together, we've got the full package, and we ran our retail store for over 27 years. And now we have stepped into the next venture of retail coaching and consulting.
Great. Yeah. Wonderful.
We are really super excited to have you guys. And I tell you what, Gary, when I saw the spreadsheet tool that you created for the retailers this morning, I was really excited because I think it's going to be super helpful in clarifying a lot of things for people. Retail Clarity, what a perfect name for your company. Clarifying a lot of things for people as they go ahead and start this loan application process. So maybe you could just start by telling us a little bit, like, how did this idea pop into your head, and what is it that what does this tool help people accomplish?
Okay, so our business, or the company business, or my analytics business, is all about helping retailers and to make decisions. And I guess we knew this was going to pass last Friday. Over the weekend, we're trying to figure out what's going on. And as I saw the complication to the whole process and all the things going there, we had one of our clients say, "Hey, help me make sense of this." And I said, "You know what I need to do? I need to build a model that you can use to help determine if and maybe when you may want to apply for a loan." Might as well get a disclaimer out of the way. We're not CPAs, we're not legals. You need to get professional advice. But basically, I mean, literally, with my CPA, we stayed up till 9 o'clock late that night just to answer all the questions. So we think we have a good understanding of most of the questions. And I've tried to put all those different dates and formulas and all that into the spreadsheet so people can actually see. One part of it is a cash flow estimate to see how their cash flow will look during this remaining 9 months of the year.
But one caveat is, as Susan has mentioned in all of your times you've been online, this keeps changing. So Gary does this probably 5 times as new things come out, and it'll be different maybe in a day or two from now, but it's still a great base model to help you get an understanding.
Absolutely.
So just let me talk to that for a second. What you're going to be seeing right now, because we are going to share our screen, and you guys are going to be able to see this tool in a minute. Gary, this is version 4 that you're working on, that we're going to be working on right now. Is that correct?
Version 5.
Version 5. Okay. So
5 in 5 days.
We will keep this updated on our page. So if the tool that you end up looking at is slightly different than what you see in this video, that's because we're keeping you updated and giving you the most updated version of the tool. So I just wanted to say that, yes, things are changing sometimes by the minute. So, okay, now, Bob, what was your question?
Oh, no. I was going to say, so whenever, right now, in the middle of this pandemic, everything is changing so quickly. We arranged this interview
In like 10 minutes.
10 minutes ago, and we just received a text that our dog ran away. So I have to run upstairs and get our boys to go find our dog, but I'll be back in just a moment.
That's okay.
This is
I'll
what we
talk
call
to Gary.
exactly. We're all just being flexible. So I'll be back. You guys have at it.
You go take care of the dog. Yeah, this is what working from home is like, right, people? We're all dealing with this right at the same time. So Gary, do you want to just go ahead and just dig right in, start sharing your screen and telling us a little bit about this awesome tool that you've created and how it works?
Yes, I will. Let me tell me when you can see the screen.
Yeah, I think we've got it right now. Perfect.
In front of you.
There we go.
Okay, so basically, one of the first things you have to do to find out the maximum loan amount is determine what your monthly average payroll is over the last 12 months. So basically, the payroll types that count are listed here. Salaries, wages, commission, vacation, and sick pay. There are some other questions around that. I don't know exactly those answers, but that is a pretty base salary definition. That is what is listed in the actual law itself.
Yes.
The next part is any reduction for individuals making over $100,000. We'll talk about that. Health insurance premium, retirement benefits, all the stuff that you've been talking about in your other podcasts.
Yep.
Hopefully people have a good understanding at this point what all those things mean.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend as much time on that. So basically, if you take the last 12 months and you place it in here, simple monthly average will come out here. The multiplier is 2.5 times. So in this model of what I've entered, the maximum loan amount is $108,229. Right here is where you would type in a different amount if you wanted to apply for a different amount. I'm leaving $100,000 as my loan amount in this model here.
And Gary, I just want to say, I think it's really smart that you've done this piece, because just because you can get a loan for this maximum amount doesn't mean that every individual retailer should or will want to take the loan for that maximum amount. Is that what you also are thinking?
Yes, and once you look on the we're going to eventually end up into a cash flow model. And once you end up there, you'll see, maybe you don't need to loan as much as you thought you may. So that's the whole idea, is how much and when. Those are the two questions.
I like it.
The next thing, this is actually a drop-down list right here. The earliest that we foresee that you can get it, of course, is this month. You technically could get it in July if you applied right at the end of the loan and they didn't fund till July. But basically,
And if they had money left.
and if they had money.
I think that's a big question. I think if you waited all the way to the end of June, you won't get any money.
That's what we think too. A lot of people are like, do I need to apply tomorrow? And our thought is no, because it may be advantageous to wait a few days till all of these questions get answered.
Yeah.
But basically, this drop down to determine when the money would come into, you would receive the money, has to do with the cash flow model on the next page. So you don't have to worry about that as of yet, because you may be changing this once you get into your cash flow model.
Yeah.
So looking at the next page, so the big question everybody has is about forgiveness. Okay, it would be wonderful if everybody could have the entire amount forgiven, and then other things. It could be your best interest, in my opinion. Once again, I'm not a professional. That you may need more money than you can be forgiven, and if so, it's only 0.5% interest for 2 years. So that comes into play. We're also going to be talking about EIDL. I know you've talked about that too.
Yeah, fantastic loan rate. So.
So we're going to focus just on this part right now for the PPP program. And so basically there's a lot going on this sheet right here because it takes into effect the limitations. The 75% to be used towards covered payroll, that popped up 2 days ago. That wasn't in any government dockets before. I think the Treasury Department made a call to try to make this be used more towards payroll than paying rent, such as if people are closed. Okay, so I have that in here, et cetera. So I'm going to go through a model. If you remember, our loan amount was $100,000. Okay, If I spent the full 75% or 75,000 during the 8-week period following receiving the loan, I would enter that here. Okay, and once again, this is an estimator of future events, so you're just guessing and you're playing with the numbers right now. But if I were to do that, because only 25% of those expenses can be paid toward non-payroll expenses, the limit is 25,000. Okay, so basically, out of 100,000 or 100%, 75%, 25%. In my model, you would enter the things here that can be used with this money, and in this model that I've used, it actually came up more than the 25,000.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a non-payroll limit of 25,000. So the loan amount from the first page was $100,000. Potentially, you could have this full $100,000 forgiven, basically the 75,000 of payroll costs and the 25,000 limit of the other expenses. However, that's potential forgiveness. There are deductions from that. Any questions there? Everybody follow me there?
No,
I think you're doing a great job, Gary.
Yep, looks good.
So now let's talk about those reductions here. All right. So the first one is a full-time equivalent reduction, and basically what it says is if you have less full-time equivalents than you did in two different options. One option is January, February of this year, or if you did a flyover, the other is using a time period from last year.
Last year.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this a little more in a second. But if you came in less, and let's say last year was 20 and this year was 18, that's 90%. You had 90% of the full-time equivalents as you did last year. Okay. Therefore, since you have a reduction of 10% of your workforce, you're going to have a 10% reduction in your potential forgiveness. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we were at 100,000, 10% penalty roughly is $10,000. Okay. I want to talk about this, and I'm not sure if you know these answers. And I read something today that could be very useful to help deciding the full-time equivalents. Okay, what I understood today was if you use January and February from this year, let's say you have 4 different payrolls in that time period. What you would do is compute the full-time equivalents for each of the 4 payrolls independently, because you may have had somebody quit, as an example.
Sure.
And then you would take that average. Okay, is that your understanding? Have you heard that?
Yep, that sounds about right.
Perfect. I want to share this real fast, and I think it'll. This link right here. Well, it's not a link. I got to fix that on your version there. But basically,
okay.
This is a great tool, and basically
an calculator.
Yes, it'll help you compute those full-time equivalents.
Yeah.
You actually can put in their names and their hours, etc., and basically it'll come up with a number for you. And since it's coming from the government, it should be accurate. They use
they can't tell you you're wrong because it's their own calculator, right?
Right. Yeah.
The other thing I do want to say about this, Gary, my understanding too is that even if during the 8-week period that you're using the money, your FTEs are even far below, you have until June 30th to get back up to your previous staffing levels.
That's what I understand too. The question is, will your employees be available because of unemployment, et cetera? And is that just for that one payroll? So there's still some fuzziness around that. That's why I'm saying you might want to, and I personally would not bank on that unless I knew I was going to be able to ramp up production and everything would be going by then. So that one's a little more fuzzy too, how they're going to interpret that. Yeah,
it's tricky, but it appears that there is some ability to layer employees back in up to that date.
Yes.
Yes, and one of the things we heard today, and I don't know because we don't know on forgiveness totally yet how that's going to work. We're still trying to get applications figured out. The government, then they've got to figure out forgiveness. Is that, do you just have to have them for that payroll? Or someone else today suggested that they had read somewhere that they might then monitor you past June to see that you kept them for a while before they totally relieve that.
Yeah,
Who knows? That's all the fuzziness that nobody knows just yet.
exactly.
So that's why in this model, let's just bank on what we know for sure, and hopefully that June date is there, but you can at least see how much forgiveness you might get in that time period.
Exactly. We're all just estimating at this point.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
the other part has to do with additional reduction in wages or salary of specific individuals during that 8-week time period. The way I interpret it is, if they are on your payroll during the 8-week forgiveness period, if you want to call it that, basically looking at their previous quarter's payroll, if you reduce anyone by more than 25%, you would be deemed the difference, okay, below, more than 25% reduction, whatever that extra amount reduction would be subtracted here. That's also, there's a little fuzziness around there, and I don't want to really get into that. I'm sure you've talked about that. But basically, let's say after we knew better what formula to use to determine that, you might say, I'm going to get a $2,000 ding right here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we started with a $100,000 loan. We had a $10,000 reduction because we had reduced full-time equivalents. We had another $2,000 reduction right here. Total reduction is $12,000. The forgiveness amount $88,000, and the remainder of the $100,000 loan would be turned into the 0.5% 2-year loan that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant model.
Okay, I want to show you just one or two scenarios of as well up here. So let's say you had a lot less payroll. Let's say you were only going to be able to go to 50% staffing.
Mm-hmm.
If you type that number in here, everything changes all the way down through the model. So this is the beauty of this, and it lets you actually play with those numbers and see what the forgiveness amount would be compared to the loan amount, et cetera.
Yeah. Some really nice what if modeling. So one of the things that can you just scroll back down to that forgiveness amount and that loan amount? One of the things that I want to just keep everybody really focused on is, even if you don't get all of your loan forgiven, still that's a whole lot of free money right there. And it's a really, really great loan at a 0.5% interest rate over 2 years. So you know, what I don't want people to do is just, yes, obviously work to get as much of it forgiven as you can, but even if you can't get it, use that money to operate your business and stay in business so that we all come out on the other side. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, and there's another piece to the puzzle is, there's a lot of your partners that aren't being taken care of right now. There's a lot of chatter on WhizBang retailers about landlords. And so everybody wants to get paid. Mm-hmm. And I hope that everybody who's watching this wants to pay everybody their money that's due. So not only are we trying to, work this program to our maximum ability, but to our maximum benefit, but also so that we can do right by the people who are our partners.
Our landlords. Really,
our landlords. Well, specifically, but in general, to your point about borrowing money, you have vendors who are, we work in the world of small business, and trying to be a good human being through this whole thing is important.
Yeah, but I just want to be clear. You can't use this money to pay your vendors. But if you use this money for the things it's intended for, it frees up other money you might have to pay your vendors.
And that's what I was referring to.
Okay, back to you, Gary.
Sorry about that, Gary.
Let's look at your cash flow.
Okay, so I'm trying to make this fit on the screen a little bit better. View. So basically, let's make sure it all fits. Okay, there we go. All right, so basically, here's the situation. I typed in here, I had beginning cash. Let's make up a number, $98,275 in my operating account. That would be one starting place. And then forecasting sales revenue, this gives you a chance to say, well, you know what? I'm not going to be open in April. I can enter a zero there. May's going to be slow. June will be better. And then you can actually enter your forecasted sales numbers between now and the end of the year through there.
Bob, I'm sorry he hasn't been watching your social selling. We're really not going to do 0 in April. All those people that
It's an estimator, Chris. It's an estimator.
You're right. That's why I had 20,000 started. So,
it's okay, Gary, if I could interrupt, when I interviewed Rich Rose, who's a really, really smart guy when it comes to cash flow issues, he said right now, when you're building out your 8-week cash flow, he was talking about 8 weeks. He said, put your sales at 0. That way you're pretending 0. That way you can be safe.
Yeah. So with that said, you can put your projected sales in there. Inventory purchases. Notice I have a couple of numbers. This could be your current outstanding payables right now for your vendors, okay? And you have to pay them, and if you can, you'd like to pay them sooner or later and get them off the books. And then we got a time period. We're not buying inventory. We don't need inventory. But then as things start selling towards the end of the year, I'm going to need to replenish my stock. And so that's the idea of inventory purchases would go on this line.
Got it. Payroll
cost here. The other things that are in the bill from the 8 weeks, it was easy enough to put them in here so you know what those are. Debts, other liabilities. Let's say you have a $1,500 a month mortgage payment on your building, say, and you talk to your lender and they said, hey, you know what, you don't have to pay till July 1. You could change that $1,500 a month here, pay them $6,000 there, and then resume payments here. Or you can go back in and type $1,500 all the way across if you are going to continue making those. Other expenses, I'm thinking variable expenses, credit card fees, box bag, all those other things that are variable with your sales, of course, should be ramping up towards the end of the year. So this is a simplified model. Once again, here's the disclaimer. This is what your CPA does at a much bigger scale and with a lot more detail around your certain situation. But hopefully this will be helpful. What I've done here, this is a monthly cash flow projection from everything above by month, and then cumulative flow right here. And then we put May as our funding date on the loan on the first page, and so that $100,000 plops in here in May.
Nice.
Based on my current cash in the bank plus my monthly cumulative, this would be my cash available by month through the end of the year. And as you can see, you're going to run short here, September, October. However, the end of the year does look good.
I love it. That's really great. So you can really see how much cash you might need to get through the next couple of months when your sales are really, really low.
Mm-hmm.
Nice model.
After working with some people on this, we talked about EIDL. I know you've been over that as well. Let's say you also get an EIDL loan and you say, hey, I'm going to take another, looking at this number here, I want another $75,000 loan coming in the month of July. You can type that in here. It has nothing to do with the rest of the spreadsheet except show you what the cash flow would be when that loan receive those funds.
Nicely done, Gary.
Perfect. It really, it's nice. It lets you know exactly where your shortfalls are going to be and lets you decide which loans to take when. Love it.
Yeah. Well, great. That is it in a nutshell. I'm encouraging everyone to, of course, share it with their other retail friends who are going through the same thing. Of course, it's just a matter of trying to help them to get to a good decision point.
That's right. Well,
all right. Hey, Gary, stop sharing your screen for just a second and let us so we can just chit chat with you and Chris a little bit more. There we go.
So the thing that I wanted to say is, you've been participating in our community forums, and there's so many questions, and you can tell there's so much confusion. And what I'm really appreciative I'm very appreciative that you guys are so willing to share this, because this is what people need to do. They need to sit down, and Gary, and Chris, and we know that not all independent retailers are numbers driven. Mm-hmm. But even if you're not numbers driven, this model is simple enough that it should give them some retail clarity, right? So it's
yeah. Well, and speaking of retail clarity, if people do want help with this, if they want to have a conversation with you, get some coaching from you around this, guys, what should they do? How should they get in touch with you?
Probably the simplest way for everyone to get in touch with us is to go to the WhizBang, go to your website and go find a coach. Go to the very bottom because I'm Cris Willis, so I'm at the bottom.
We'll link directly to your page, Chris.
The other thing is there's a link to our website on the spreadsheet.
Okay,
that it'll take you right there.
I'll bring you
Good.
Excellent.
Wonderful. So are there any final words for anybody who might be watching this, or anybody who goes through who opens up the spreadsheet and start working with it? Any words for them?
I'm going to say, be positive. We're backed into the corner and we have to survive. And we have to survive. Our business has to survive so we can continue to contribute to the employees in the community and all that. So, don't be defeated. Don't live in fear. It's a matter of, hey, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if I don't make it, I'm going to go down trying. So this is a Bob comment.
I love it.
There you go. Chris, anything you want to say?
Just know that we're in this with all of y'all, and we have been staying in touch with Bob and Susan and watching all of your hours of sharing it with them.
Are you sick of us yet?
I know. There's just so much information, and too many times we all do have that moment of fear. And it's just so great to have this whole forum and community of people. And we felt honored that Gary had the talent to come up with something that Mike could help, because we just want to help. We just, all of us together, we'll pull through together.
Wonderful.
So appreciative, not for putting it together, Gary, and for the offer of the share. I mean, it's just so incredibly generous and open-hearted of you two. Really appreciate it. Lots of love. And thanks. Anyway, if you guys have questions, contact Chris and Gary at Retail Clarity Coaching.
There you go.
All right.
So, I would also like to make just one more plug in general, because Chris did talk about our coaches page. So if you go to WhizBang Training, you go find a coach. I mean, clearly Chris and Gary right here are showing their spirit, but all of our coaches, all of our WhizBang certified retail coaches, all embody that same spirit. So if you need a coach, if you need somebody right now, certainly consider Chris and Gary, but look on that page, find somebody who might be able to help you through this, because we are, to Chris and Gary's point, we are all in this together. And if we all pull together, work hard, keep with it, we're all going to come out all right on the other.
Good. So, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
One day closer to the end.
We're one day closer to the end.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.